January 3, 2026. 200 miles off the Venezuelan coast, the world focused on a rumored raid, but what unfolded was no act of brute force. Instead, the USS Gerald R. Ford rewrote the rules of warfare, flooding the Caribbean with relentless pattern noise to hide its true objective. How do you become invisible by being louder than ever? The answer begins here, with the Navy's secret sonic shield, a strategy that forced both enemies and allies to question everything they thought they knew about detection, dominance, and deception. In 1989, U.S. forces surrounded Panama's command compound with massive loudspeakers, blasting rock music and propaganda to break the defenders' resolve. The idea was simple: overwhelm the senses, confuse the enemy, and force a reaction. By 2026, the game had changed. Instead of using sound to intimidate, the Navy had learned to use it as cover. Sensors and analysts had grown used to quiet seas punctuated by sudden spikes, an unexpected roar, a brief flurry of engines. Those anomalies triggered alarms and drew instant attention. What if instead the noise never stopped? What if the roar of turbines, the thump of catapults, and the constant shuffle of machinery formed a steady, predictable backdrop? This is the logic behind technical saturation. Rather than silence, the Navy filled the spectrum with relentless patterned activity. Noise became the new normal, a blanket so thick that anything moving beneath it blended into the background. For Venezuelan coastal monitors, the soundscape was no longer a series of warnings, but a continuous wall of expected activity. No single event stood out. Everything was drowned in a sea of engineered routine. The shift from psychological pressure to technical saturation demanded more than just loudness. It required tempo, an industrial rhythm that left no gaps for suspicion. The mission's success depended on this new doctrine: to hide in plain sight, not by being quiet, but by making sure every second was accounted for by the right kind of noise. Every 2 minutes, another jet thundered down the catapult, engines screaming at full power. Recovery crews braced as, just 3 minutes later, a returning aircraft slammed onto the deck, its tailhook catching the steel cable. This rhythm did not let up, not for a moment. For 6 straight hours, the carrier's air wing moved like clockwork. Over 100 aircraft cycled in and out, each launch and landing feeding the relentless pulse that echoed across the water. Launch signals flashed, catapults reset, arresting gear rewound, and the next launch was already in motion before the last shockwave faded. Deck crews hustled under floodlights, guiding fighters into position, refueling and rearming with practiced speed. Each completed cycle kept the roar alive, overlapping noise so tightly that no gap remained for anything unusual to stand out. The result was a continuous, industrial blanket of sound, a sonic barrier measured not in decibels but in tempo and density. This was not a show of brute force, but a carefully engineered routine. The air wing became a living machine, its tempo set to erase any trace of hidden movement below. 6 hours of unbroken cadence, every second accounted for, drowned the Caribbean in a wall of familiar activity. In that engineered chaos, anything out of place simply vanished into the rhythm. Electromagnetic power, not steam, drives the Ford's relentless tempo. 4 EMALS catapults line the deck, each one able to hurl a jet from 0 to 170 miles per hour in about 2 seconds. As soon as one launch is complete, the system resets in just 45 seconds, almost 5 times faster than the old steam catapults. This speed means the Ford can launch or recover a plane every 2 to 3 minutes, supporting a surge rate of up to 270 sorties in a single day. The deck itself is engineered for non-stop movement. The island sits farther aft, opening wide, straight lanes for aircraft to taxi, refuel, and rearm without bottlenecks. Below the flight deck, advanced weapons elevators move bombs and missiles at 150 feet per minute, rising directly to the aircraft without detours or delays. Crews can now turn a fighter around in just 22 minutes, where older carriers took nearly twice as long. Multiply that by 100 aircraft, and the Ford delivers 1,800 more minutes of flight time each day compared to its predecessors. The ship's crew becomes a pit crew, orchestrating each launch and recovery with practiced precision. Every second saved on deck feeds the tempo above, keeping the noise blanket unbroken. These mechanical systems, EMALS, elevators, and open deck geometry are not just technical marvels. They are the backbone of the carrier's ability to sustain a wall of sound, masking every movement that matters. Power defines reach. Deep inside the USS Gerald R. Ford, two A-1B reactors churn out enough electricity to supply a small city, providing over 13,800 volts, nearly 3 times the output of older carriers. This electrical margin is not just for launches or radar sweeps. It is the backbone that lets the ship operate every system at peak tempo, all at once, without hesitation. With this reserve, the Ford holds its position 380 nautical miles from Caracas, a distance chosen with precision. That offset matches the combat radius of the F-35C Lightning II, allowing each jet to spend up to 90 minutes over the target area with enough fuel to return safely. Surrounding the carrier, destroyers form a ring at 50-mile intervals, their sensors and missiles overlapping to create a defensive envelope stretching nearly 500 miles across the sea. This geometry is not guesswork. It is calculated to maximize both protection and striking power. Every watt of energy, every mile of placement, extends the tempo and reach of the fleet, turning raw power into a shield that shapes the entire battle space. Fuel calculations shaped every decision above the deck. Each F-35C carried 13,300 pounds of jet fuel, with every gallon weighing nearly 7 pounds. The math behind flight paths became as important as the missions themselves. By routing aircraft in wide, clockwise orbits that matched prevailing winds, planners cut fuel burn by 11%. Over 6 hours, this translated to savings of nearly 290,000 pounds, enough to keep jets circling for an extra 90 minutes without refueling. Endurance was only half the equation. The other half was clarity, seeing through the Caribbean's shifting haze. Normally, evaporation ducting bends radar signals, creating ghost images and blind spots that hide threats or clutter the screen with false alarms. The solution came from dual-band radar, pairing long-range S-band volume search with X-band horizon scanning. This combination filtered out humidity and island clutter, refreshing a clear city-scale picture every 1.2 seconds. Aviators and analysts worked in tandem, using this constant stream of data to track every movement below. The result: extended cover, sharper awareness, and a battle space where nothing slipped through unnoticed. At the edge of the operation, the amphibious assault ship stood ready, its flight deck humming with the promise of vertical reach. In the darkness, a pair of F-35B Lightning II jets lifted off, powered by their 29,000 horsepower lift fans. These jets were built for immediacy, able to rise almost straight up and push forward, closing the distance to Caracas in about 11 minutes. Their arrival was not a matter of brute force, but of precision, slipping past coastal defenses under the continuous shield of noise from the carrier group far offshore. Beneath that sonic umbrella, a Delta Force team moved into action. Their insertion was swift and silent, the kind of operation that left no trace on the surface. There were no alarms, no warning shots, no scramble of defenders. Every phase of the mission ran under a blanket of engineered precision, each movement hidden by the relentless tempo overhead. When extraction came, it was just as clean. The team and every aircraft returned, no losses, no casualties. The mission's finish was not marked by explosions or headlines, but by a complete recovery, every asset accounted for. In the end, dominance meant leaving nothing behind, not even a whisper out of place. Today, military dominance is measured not just in firepower, but in the manipulation of perception and tempo. As technology accelerates, the line between detection and deception blurs. The next conflict may be won before a single shot is fired. What would we notice if silence itself became the cover?